Hi, I'm Richard from Drive Green, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Tesla Model 3. The Model 3 is the world's best-selling electric car, and today I'm going to share my thoughts on this amazing car with you and help you decide whether it might be the right electric car for you. The Model 3 arrived in the UK in 2019, and in its first year of sales it sold 3 times as many as the next highest selling EV. It really has immediately taken the EV crown, and not just in the UK but also globally. It's incredible how popular the Model 3 is, how much more it's selling than any other EV on the market at the moment. Whether it's going to maintain that position longer term with so many new cars arriving, it remains to be seen. However, it certainly dominates the marketplace at the moment, and it's the benchmark against which all other upcoming EVs are going to be judged. I think it's safe to assume that Tesla know how to keep ahead of the competition and how to maintain that head start they already have with this car. I think it's set to be a dominant force for quite some time to come. The concept of the Model 3 was for Tesla to be able to take their amazing EV technology to a wider, more mass market audience. The Model S and the Model X are both very expensive cars really, and as a result Tesla needed something more affordable. Using clever minimalistic design on the interior and making a smaller, lighter car that required less materials and smaller batteries, Tesla have been able to produce a substantially cheaper car with the Model 3. The highly desirable Tesla brand at a more approachable price point has proven to be a very successful combination. The Model S and the Model X are both quite expensive cars really. What Tesla needed was something much more affordable. It's often thought that the bigger the car, the more practical and versatile it is. I must admit, I don't always think that's necessarily the case, with the Model X and the Model S being uncomfortably big for some of the UK's tighter roads and parking in city centre car parks, for example. They are perhaps great as a long-distance cruiser or a holiday car, but when it comes to darting around town, driving to work every day, or taking the kids to school, there are better fits. Having spent a lot of time with the X and the S, I would definitely say the Model 3 is far more practical as a daily driver. I think Tesla have sized the Model 3 very well. It's not too big and it's not too small. It's a very nicely proportioned mid-sized coupe. Naturally, with it being smaller, there are some compromises on space. That said, the cabin is by no means small or cramped. It's not limousine sized like its cousins, the S and the X, but it's perfectly okay. Taller people may struggle a little in the back, not because of a lack of headroom, but more because you sit quite low, and with the higher floor your legs end up quite high. Although, in truth, this probably will only matter on longer journeys. Where it does struggle a tiny bit is on boot space. The boot itself isn't too small, especially when you take into account this under-boot storage as well. The problem is more with the size of the boot opening, which can be a bit restrictive if you're trying to put larger items in the back of the car. There's also a small frunk as well, which is useful for things like the weekly shopping. Overall, in terms of storage, with the boot, the bit underneath and the frunk, the Model 3 is suitable for most applications. It might struggle a little bit as a holiday car, however if you pack smart and maybe put on a roof box, you can totally make it work. The Model 3 is very inoffensive and quite pleasing in its looks. It's not stunningly gorgeous, but then how many cars at this level actually are? It's perfectly nice for a car of this size and its market placement. It's not necessarily the most standout looking of cars, but it is quite attractive. It's certainly nice enough and very unoffensive. It's got a kind of futuristic, modern look about it somehow. One very important feature is the Tesla logo just here. The Tesla brand adds a huge amount to the desirability of this car because Tesla is pretty much the coolest brand on the planet right now. One place where Tesla has always led the EV industry is the driving range of their cars. Back when other manufacturers were producing cars with 100 miles worth of range and even less, Tesla were putting out cars with a 200-mile range or more. The Model 3 is available in 2 battery sizes. The more commonly chosen standard range, which has a 50 kilowatt-hour battery, and I think realistically gives you about 200 miles worth of driving range. And then there is the long-range model, which has a bigger 75 kilowatt-hour battery and can do approximately 300 miles. It is possible to get more range, however it's easily possible to get less. You've got to remember that the Model 3 is really, well, it's a fun car to drive and it's certainly very, very powerful. And if you like that instant kick of hard acceleration and you quite like aggressive, sporty driving, then you'll certainly see your range disappear a lot quicker. However, that really shouldn't be a massive surprise. Both the standard range and the long range models both have very, very respectable, quite hard to beat driving ranges. However, increasingly we're seeing more and more other EVs coming online with comparable ranges, such as the Kona, for example, and the e-Niro. So no longer is long range driving the exclusive party trick of the Tesla. Where Tesla is still leaps ahead of the competition is its charging network. With superchargers readily available all across the UK and Europe, you're never far away from a quick and reliable charge. As a result, if you regularly do a lot of long distance driving, the Tesla genuinely really is the best game in town because of the spread of that supercharger network. Also, this car will charge super quickly on some of the superchargers. If you get on the right one, you can charge as much as 75 miles into this car with just a 5-minute charging stop. To be fair, a lot of the superchargers obviously don't charge at that speed, but even on a regular supercharger, you're still going to get a lot of charge in this car in a very short space of time. Public charging in a Model 3 is almost effortless, as in addition to the Tesla superchargers, you can use the national CCS charging network as well, which means finding a charger is never a problem in the Model 3. The interior of the Model 3 is definitely very different to any other car. It's nice and bright, very, very nice and stylish, but it's very, very minimal in its design. The interior is dominated by this big touchscreen, obviously, that sits in the middle of the car, which is where most of the car's controls live. Other than that, you've got a steering wheel, which only has 2 buttons on it, and you've got your indicator stalk, and you've got your gear selector stalk. Absolutely everything else is controlled by the touchscreen here. This lack of traditional controls might seem a little bit strange to start off with, till you spend a little bit of time with it and you realise how clever the functionality of this car is, and in fact how much easier it is to control the car with so much less clutter and buttons. I'd certainly like it a lot, and I would almost go as far as to say I actually prefer it. Having things like the wiper controls and wing mirror adjustments on the touchscreen is a bit strange, as they're both controls are used to having instant access to. Although I don't necessarily feel that the touchscreen is a better place to control these types of function, for example, it still works okay. Normally behind the steering wheel obviously is where you'd normally have your dash screen with your speedo, etc. And obviously in the Model 3 there's nothing there at all, which might seem really strange to start off with, but it's actually surprisingly okay. Out of your left eye, it's very easy to see the speedo and the things you need to see. Even with your traditional dash screen, you still have to tilt your eyes down slightly to look at it. All you've got to do is learn to tilt slightly to the left rather than slightly down. It's surprisingly easy to adapt to. This has all been very brave and very forward-thinking of Tesla, completely breaking with convention. However, I really like it. I think it really, really works, and I think for Tesla it has really paid off. If you like familiarity and traditional car controls, then the Model 3 probably isn't for you. I've learned with dealing with lots of EV buyers that a lot of people do like familiarity and will be slightly put off by the dominance of the car's computer controls. The Model 3's sort of cutting-edge design and tech is definitely one of the car's strengths, but it's also one of the car's weaknesses. Like I say, it's not really, in my experience, one size fits all with cars, and a lot of people will be put off by it. If you're unsure of how you're going to feel about it, I strongly urge you to go for a test drive and see how you feel. Try and determine which camp you actually fit into. With this incredible tablet-style computer running the car, you do get a hint of what the future holds, and the possibilities that this sort of presents. Thanks to Tesla, we're moving into a place where your car can be fully integrated into your digital life. I won't go too much into the tech and the many functions of the car in this video, as there's so much to show. However, do please watch our more practical, in-depth Model 3 handover video where I'll cover a lot more of these things in more detail. I do have to, however, mention Tesla's autopilot system, which is quite simply amazing. There are other cars, such as the Nissan Leaf, that have a self-driving system, but it's not a patch on what the Tesla can do. I mean, it's obviously great on the motorways, and you feel very comfortable with the car driving for you. However, in the Model 3, it will even do it on the A roads, and I'll just flip it on now, and here we are. We're driving on a British A road, 60 miles an hour and the car's doing the accelerating, braking and steering, and you feel quite comfortable with it and it feels very competent. Whether you like the toys and whether you trust a car enough to do some of the driving for you or not, I don't know. However, you absolutely have to be in awe of this technology, especially sitting in a car that sits at this price point. The autopilot is yet another amazing feature of the Model 3 and part of what makes it so very desirable. You really can't fault the drive of the Model 3. I mean, it really, really is very, very good indeed. Obviously, you've got that smooth, effortless driving that characterises all electric cars. However, in the Tesla, it's definitely better than most. It handles very well. Doubtlessly, that's helped by its all-wheel drive dual motor configuration, but also where the batteries put the weight sort of very low in centre of the car. You've got a very low centre of gravity. And actually, in terms of cornering, you know, the effects are really quite amazing. I can think of few cars that actually corner as well as this. And you've got loads of power. I mean, this really is a very quick car. Don't be misled by its sort of very unassuming looks. It really is quick. Even in the standard models, you know, when you put your foot down, it's like being on a rocket. And then when you look at the performance models, I mean, it really is very, very hard to describe unless you've been in one. I mean, it's like being shot out of a gun. They're so quick, you know, with acceleration that rivals all those supercars that for many years we've all dreamt of. Even this long-range model I'm now driving, if I pull to a safe stop here, let me just show you. Here we go. Hopefully the footage will do that justice and shows how quick this car is to kind of accelerate away at those sorts of speeds, you know, like 911 sort of speeds. I always thought would probably be absolutely terrifying. However, in the Model 3 it feels so well planted. The Model 3, when it comes to its drive, really, really is superb. It's clear why the Model 3 is so popular and has done so well. It really is a brilliant car. Performance-wise, it's a winner. Its tech is way ahead of everyone else. It has an unrivaled charging network as well as having a great range. It's approachably priced and everyman sized. And not to mention, it offers incredible value when you put it up against the Model S and the Model X. So is the Tesla Model 3 the perfect EV or the best EV for everyone? Well, actually no. I mean, the Model 3 is undoubtedly brilliant and it deserves its dominant place within the EV market. However, the EV marketplace is now becoming far more rich in variety as lots more electric cars come online. And you could certainly argue some of them are more practical. Some you can even argue have more spec in a traditional sense, although when it comes to technology, the Model 3 is pretty much unrivaled. Some EVs have comparable ranges, but very importantly, a lot of the EVs out there are a lot cheaper than the Model 3. Whilst the Model 3 is definitely good value for money, it still, relatively speaking, is quite an expensive car and maybe outside of the financial grasp of a lot of people. So it's always worth bearing in mind. Brilliant though the Model 3 is, there are other options out there, particularly when you're looking at spending a little less money. The Model 3 is definitely a great car, completely worthy of all the hype and very much deserving of its incredible popularity. Particularly if you're a lover of the tech and like to be at the cutting edge of things, the Model 3 is almost impossible to beat. It is without doubt 100% one of the very best electric cars out there. I hope this video has been useful in helping you get a bit more of a feel for the personality of the Model 3. If you'd like to find out more, if you'd like to arrange a test drive, please do get in touch. Please also be sure to check out our other videos, and thank you very much for watching.